The sun is starting to set at Plaza 700. The dining hall is slammed inside, orders piled high. Zach runs the line alone, flipping burgers, plating fries, ringing the counter when he can. Sweat drips, shirt clinging to his back. He glances down the line. 2 empty stations. The other workers are nowhere to be found. He's covering 3 jobs at once. Zach thinks to himself, there should be 3 of us here. It's just me. Always just me. Todd stands at the register, grinning in high spirits for once. He slaps hands with students as they pay, counting bills, voice booming across the chaos. Todd says, best sales in months. Told you, cook, nothing beats the classics. Zach grits his teeth, flipping patties harder, grease popping against his arms. Carl leans against the wall, off to the side. He doesn't order, he just glares at Zach. Fists tight, eyes burning with pent-up rage. The noise at the cafeteria dulls around them. Zach finally looks up. For a split second, his face hardens. A mean glare, raw and sharp. Not shadow, just fury leaking through. Something Carl's never seen from him before. Carl flinches, thrown off, then his surprise twists into rage. His fists slam against the counter. Carl says, if I could kill you right now, I would. He storms off, shoving past students, breath harsh with anger. Zach immediately looks away, uneasy. His chest feels heavy, ashamed of what just slipped through his face. The grill hisses. A student shouts from the line, hey, where's my burger? Don't tell me you're out already again. Zach checks the tray, empty. His hands falter. Zach says, quiet and drained, out of beef, only veggie burgers left. The student scoffs. The laughter spreads like wildfire, students jeering from nearby tables. One student says, veggie burgers? What is this, prison food? Another student says, snickering, yeah, might as well feed it to the rabbits. Zach's shoulders lock. He turns away, one eye flickering dark for just a beat. His voice comes out low, not entirely his own. Zach says, the meat remembers what you did to them. The laughter dies instantly. Students glance down, half-eaten patties twitch, grease bubbling unnaturally. A bun slides, revealing meat that jerks like a muscle spasm. A girl shrieks, knocking her tray to the floor. Chairs scrape as students scatter, panicked. Carl hears the chaos halfway to the exit, stops in his tracks. His fists tremble, jaw locked. His whisper drips venom. Carl says to himself, furious, shadows stirring, and I still can't touch him. Todd storms out from the back, face red, breaking the moment. Todd says, shouting, cook, what the hell's going on? You scared off half the hall. That's a write-up. You're done. Go home, now. Todd storms off and shadows seem to grow around him as he enters his office. Zach stares at Todd as he stomps away, searching his face, wondering if Todd even remembers who he really is. But Todd just looks like any boss, furious about sales. Zach rips off his apron and storms through the back door. Outside, in the cool night, Zach pulls out his phone. The screen glows with a new message. 1 hour tonight, 7 p.m., the usual. His thumb hovers. He'd asked for the whole weekend. His chest sinks. Cowboy might be dead, and his son will only see him for an hour. It all presses down at once. He exhales hard, pocketing the phone. His steps drag toward home. There was a time I felt like everything was slipping. My son, the music, my reason for trying. But even when you're falling, there's still a little light left. If you can find it before it burns out. That's the thing about spirals. Sometimes they're just a long way down before you rise. Inside Zach's small apartment, the faint hum of the fridge fills the silence. Streetlights shine through the blinds, and paint stripes across the floor. Zach sits cross-legged on the worn carpet, watching his son zoom around with a cardboard hat, a stick, and a blanket draped like a cape. Zach's son says, Daddy, look, I'm a cowboy superhero. I saved the animals. He flies around the room, stick held high like a sword, swooping toward invisible villains. Zach leans back against the couch, smiling faintly, soaked in it until his smile fades. His eyes drift, unfocused as the memory crashes through. Cowboy titanium, his face steeled with resolve, being dragged, screaming into the swirling, blackened portal of the rotten core. Shadow tendrils snake up his arms. The last flash of his eyes before the shadows swallow him, the portal snaps shut. Silence. Zach blinks back to the present. His son has stopped in front of him, looking puzzled. Zach's son says softly, "Daddy? I'm a cowboy superhero." Zach exhales, shakes it off, then manages a small grin. He reaches out and scoops his son up, spinning him as the boy giggles. Zach says gently, teasing, "You sure are, partner. The toughest one I ever met. No shadow's got a chance against you." They collapse laughing onto the carpet. The cozy apartment darkens as the blinds close, and the scene cuts to the suffocating black skyline of Slaughter City, where smokestacks churn and faint cries echo through the night. Slaughter City sprawls endlessly, 20 miles in every direction, a hellscape of slaughterhouses, factories, black towers, and highways pulsing with trucks, cages, and smoke. Kyle says calm but grim. Built on broken backs, powered by silence, the largest slaughterhouse on Earth. Slaughter City, 20 miles square, a nightmare. On the streets below, chaos workers and overseers, humans and shadows, scurry under the gaze of the Shadow General. Gluttony sits atop a slaughterhouse roof, gloating and laughing, tearing at carcasses. Wrath storms through the streets, striking at random, his eyes blazing red. Apathy leans on a balcony above the square, with skeletal fingers idly manipulating workers like marionettes. Kyle says, "Topside is suicide. You wouldn't make it past Wrath and his patrols, let alone those towers." The camera plunges underground and into the damp labyrinth sewers. Etching of resistance glow faintly on the walls, and an almost invisible trail leads toward a grate. The hidden way in. Kyle continues, "The sewers are our best shot. No cameras, no guards worth mentioning. But it's tight, cold, and crawling with things that don't see the sun." The sewer tunnels morph into a holographic projection in the dim war room of PAS HQ. Kyle stands at the table, pointing at the map while the others, Zach, Lockdown, Brent, Tyler, Nikki, stand around him. The hologram flickers between streets and sewers as he speaks. Kyle says, "That's our way in. Through here. Once inside, you split into teams. Take out the generators, feeding something reading shadow energies like we've never seen before, and free those who we can." Brent frowns, tapping the sewer projection. Brent says, "It's a maze down there and crawling with other things that don't come up anymore." Lockdown leans over the table, and Lockdown says, "Doesn't matter. That's how we gut this place from the inside." Zach stares silently at the glowing map. Echoes of Cowboy Titanium's scream ripples in his memory, his fist clenched as the sewer lines glow faintly on the table. Zach says quietly, "We're not just freeing animals, we're tearing down a machine." Tyler steps forward, quiet but firm. The room falls still as he speaks. Tyler speaks up, hesitant but firm. "There's room on this mission. I want in." Brent eyes him, skeptical. Brent says, frowning, "You just barely survived the last one. You sure you're ready?" Tyler pauses, his eyes dropping to the map. When he speaks, his voice is low but steady. Tyler says, "Carl and I, we weren't just roommates. He let me crash at his place when I was down bad. Saved me in a way. But one night, my dog, Sharno, sweetest little guy, he got into some rat poison Carl left out. Didn't even put it up high. Said killing these rats was more important than some flea bag." He swallows hard, jaw tightening. I freaked out. Carl just laughed. Said if I wanted a pet, I should have kept it in a cage. That was the first crack. Then that day in the dining hall when Zach sang, he didn't look at me like I was some punchline. He looked at me like I could still be someone, like I wasn't just Carl's shadow." He finally looks up, his eyes clearer, and Tyler continues, "So yes, I want in, and I would die for this cause." A beat of silence. Brent studies him, still frowning but less severe now. Brent says, "Okay, but you're not fully healed." Zach calmly steps forward. He rests his hand gently over Tyler's chest. Golden green light sparks to life, warmer, stronger than before. The glow seeps into Tyler's wounds. Shadow scars ripple, twitch, and dissolve. Bruises fade. His breathing steadies. Strength returns to his stance. Tyler says, eyes wide, almost whispering, "Doesn't hurt anymore. I feel solid." Brent watches, arms crossed, one brow raised. Brent says, "Huh. Last time that shadow was too deep for you to clear." He exhales and glances away. "Guess your powers are finally catching up to your promises." A brief quiet. Tyler flexes his fist, the last of the light settling into his veins. Tyler says firmly, "I'm ready." Lockdown leans forward over the table, determined but uneasy. His fingers tap the edge of the crate rhythmically. Lockdown says, "So, we're going in blind. With Cowboy Titanium missing? This is gonna be rough." Zach exhales, nodding reluctantly, eyes fixed on the hologram of the sewer path. Zach says, "Then we move. We'll find him later. Right now, Slaughter City needs us." Suddenly, a faint breeze rustles the holographic map. Mother Nature appears faintly above the table, her form shimmering in the projection. The team falls silent. Mother Nature says, somberly, "You're right to go, but not just for justice or liberation. There is more at stake than you know." She gestures and the hologram shifts. Black veins spread outward from Slaughter City's center. Mother Nature continues, "Slaughter City was built over an ancient life well. Its energy has been poisoned, twisted to feed something darker." Her voice drops, almost a whisper. "They're using the pain to strengthen a weapon called the Rotten Core." Everyone exchanges stunned looks. Brent steps closer, skeptical but listening. Brent says, "The Rotten Core? Is that what their generators of suffering are feeding in Slaughter City? What is that?" Mother Nature continues, "A convergence of decay and suffering. If fully awakened, even I may not be able to stop what comes." She turns to Brent, her tone softening. "Brent, your technology may serve more than one world here." She holds out a glowing seed-shaped crystal. Brent hesitates, then takes it, awed. Mother Nature continues, "This frequency will open portals to the higher plane. Myra, we can shelter those who would never survive here." Brent says quietly, determined, I'll make it work." Her presence fades, but her final words linger in the air. "You must hit them hard, before it's too late." Later, inside the comms room, Lynn says to Nikki, "Nikki, since you're shattering me on comms today, grab the stealth telemetry and pad sync codes Brent prepped. Once the team's inside Slaughter City, the Harvest defense grid will pick up even a whisper. So no earpieces or live chatter. We'll be silent on audio, just feeding raw data, running the drones and syncing the teleportation pads." Nikki says, "Okay, where do I find it?" Lynn says, "In Brent's tech laboratory. Should be right on his main workbench." Nikki says, "On it." Nikki steps into the hallway, the hum of distant machinery filling the silence. As he walks, he passes Brent and Kyle outside the tech room, speaking in low tones while monitors flickered with streams of light data. Kyle says quietly, "This portal works. Everything changes." Brent says, focused, "It'll work. Just a few more calculations." Nikki enters the tech lab. The packet of papers, pad sync codes, stealth telemetry maps, and fallback coordinates tucked under his arm. He pauses, noticing the glowing equipment and scattered blueprints, schematics of Zman mid-blast, spectral graphs of green energy waves, and handwritten notes, frequency instability, potential light overload, Whistler test pending, are spread across the bench. His gaze lands on the light Whistler, pulsing faintly. Nikki says, murmuring, impressed, "Built straight from Z-Man's power. Figures." He lingers, the paper still in hand, and reaches toward the Whistler. Nikki says with a half grin, muttering, "What's the worst that could happen?" He raises it toward his lip as soon as Brent walks into the room, bursting in alarm. "Stop! Do you have any idea what you're holding?" Nikki freezes. Brent says grimly, "That's the light Whistler. Last resort only. The beam it generates is nearly an atom bomb of light. If there isn't enough shadow to soak it up, it'll vaporize everything nearby." Nikki lowers it slowly, wide-eyed. Nikki says, "Okay, last resort. Got it." Brent secures the Whistler, then turns to the beacon device and adjusts its setting. Kyle steps quietly back into the doorway. Brent says, focused, "Frequency aligned, anchor locked, destination higher plane." The beacon disc on the floor lights up, and the shimmering portal blooms above it, soft white gold light flooding the room. Brent exhales, scanning for volunteers. His eyes land on Nikki, still holding the pad-synced packet. Brent says, "All right, now we just need someone willing to risk getting atomized to see if this works. Well, since you're still here, Nikki?" Nikki says, cracking his neck, grinning, "If I'm gonna die, might as well be shiny and heroic. Step aside, Einstein." Brent steps back with a dry look. Brent says, muttering, "Fine, don't trip on the light show." Nikki steps into the portal. Light swallows him. Silence. Brent and Kyle watch the monitors, tense. Then another flash and Nikki reappears, staggering, clutching his chest. Nikki says, hoarse and gasping, Oh, no, everything hurts. He drops to one knee, groaning. Brent's hand hovers over the controls. Then Nikki grins and pops back up. Ha, just kidding. Smooth ride, 5 stars, highly recommended, Nikki says. Brent exhales sharply, muttering under his breath. At that moment, Tyler walks by the open door, stops and stares at the portal in awe. Tyler says, "Holy crap, you really did it." Kyle finally speaks, calm but electric with resolve. "This is it. We launch in 10. You just made history, Brent." Brent just gives a faint smile, already picking up the stack of beacon discs. He walks over to a pair of PAS field agents waiting at the door and hands them the glowing discs. Brent says, "Deploy these to every sanctuary pad we set up. One for every zone." One agent hesitates, worried. "But there are millions of animals down there. We'll never fit them all." Brent pauses, grim, looking them in the eyes. Brent says, "Then we save who we can. We don't stop because it's hard. Plus, now we can send them to the higher plane." Brent sees Lockdown walking down the hallway and he says, "Lockdown, I wanted to give you this. It will make your sonic powers stronger." Brent hands Lockdown a microphone with a built-in speaker. Brent says, "It is calibrated to your power's frequencies. You just use your power's bass drop, singing, or whatever." Lockdown says, "Oh, no way, thanks, man. I'll put it to good use." It lingers on the softly glowing beacons, the faint hum of the portal, Brent's determined face, and the team's quiet focus as the final preparations continue. In the Shadow Realm, throne room, Mortem lingers, dark hood, no visible face, but dim glowing red eyes. Mortem stands alone in the dim hall. The glow in his eyes is faint, flickering like dying candles. Around him, half-open doors shimmer. Glimpse of stars, rivers of souls, lives moving upward. Mortem thinks, "Once I open paths." He raises a trembling hand. A thin black portal blooms before him like an oil iris. Inside, not memory, but time itself unfolds, showing a reflection of his very soul and life essence. Through it, a younger Mortem, luminous, robed in silver light, gently guides a luminous soul through a golden door. Younger Mortem says, "All journeys find their next sunrise." Current Mortem watches, silent. That same portal flips timelines. The golden glow snaps dark. Now he sees a future Mortem, gaunt and skeletal, dragging shrieking shadows into sealed gates, black chains coiling from his fingers. Each door he touches slams shut behind a fading light. Mortem says low, almost like a prayer, "I no longer open doors for souls. I close them." And light cannot last where rot has taken root. Mortem's own reflection in the portal shifts between angel, shade, and reaper, flickering like a slideshow. He reaches toward the portal, hand glowing faint blue, then clenches it into a fist. The portal fractures. He turns away from the portal's shards, walks past a dying rabbit, chest rising weakly. He pauses, shadows ripple around his feet. He looks down. A faint glimmer of compassion crosses his face, then fades. He steps onward. The rabbit's eyes close. As Mortem moves forward, the portal behind him flares back to life, showing his soul reflection through time. Within the swirling void, countless luminous doors slam shut, one after another. Their lights extinguishing in sequence. Only one faint door remains deep within the vision, its frame trembling, a thin line of light still leaking through the crack, not yet closed, one door left, lingering in the dark. In the deep chasm below Slaughter City that is connected to the Shadow Realm, a pitch-black abyss, fog curling like smoke, countless pale spirits rise from shadowed ruins, their shapes half-formed, drifting upward like ash. Mortem descends through them, cloak dragging, hand outstretched. Each soul he tosses fades to gray and streams toward a massive unseen shape in the void, the rotten core. Only glimpsed by its vast, pulsing silhouette and a single crimson eye deep in the dark, he gathers what the city kills. Mortem's eyes, reflected in his hollow gaze, soul spiraling into the abyss. Mortem says quietly, "As commanded." From above, Mortem appears small, a lone figure harvesting countless lost lives. The abyss pulses, and the core's shadow spreads outward like veins. By the time light arrives, shadow will have taken its share. At a dystopian mega slaughterhouse stretching across miles, wrapped in barbed wire and smoke, giant steel pipes leak blood into black rivers, screams echo faintly. built on broken backs, powered by shadows, demons, and rot, the largest slaughterhouse on Earth, Slaughter City. Mother Nature appears in the reflection of a blood river, faint and wary. Zack stares into it. Mother Nature says telepathically, "This place poisons a spirit. Not all who enter return whole." Zack clenches his fist, his eyes hollowed but determined. He thinks, "Then I'll return in fragments." A squad of PAS operatives in stealth gear start loading teleport medallions, EMP orbs, and healing vials. Tonight, compassion goes to war. Inside the sewer, beneath Slaughter City, Lockdown leans on a crate beside Brent, who studies the glowing blueprints in his hands. Lockdown absently flips his new mic into the air, fumbles it once, barely catching it. Brent glances up, eyebrow raised. "You really gotta juggle that thing. I just built it. You break it, you buy it." Lockdown says, grinning awkwardly, "Just testing the balance, man." He straightens quickly, forcing a smile, but there's a flicker of unease in his eyes. Zack notices, steps up beside him quietly. He says, "Hey, Lockdown, you alright?" Lockdown says, "I'm just worried about Cowboy Titanium." Zack says, "He's strong. I believe he's still out there, and we'll find him." The team infiltrates a sewer tunnel under the factory. Rats scurry ahead but suddenly stop, huddle and retreat. A PAS agent whispers, "Even they won't go further." Lockdown says, nervously joking, "Place smells like the devil's lunchbox." As the team climbs up through the sewers underneath the factory, the walls drip with blood and whispers echo from the steel. They can faintly hear whispers in the background. "Meat, meat, meat." Zack looks nauseated. One PAS agent throws up. Zack thinks, This isn't a factory. It's a temple of torment." Brent throws down a small robotic-looking device. It comes to life, carving a clean hole in the sewer roof and extending a smooth tunnel upward. Vines sprout and twist underfoot as Zman raises his hands, growing a platform that lifts the team into the opening. As they emerge into Slaughter City, the stench hits first, metallic and rancid. They look out over miles of cages, carcasses hanging like grotesque chandeliers, and endless shadow tech machinery humming and clinking. Brent crouches by a humming control panel, fingers flying across its light tech interface. His eyes flick between rows of swinging carcasses and blinking glyphs. Brent says grimly, "This isn't just blood and hooks anymore. The whole damn place runs on embedded shadow tech. Pumps, restraints, automated cleavers. The workers, gone. Replaced by this." Behind him, harvest agents patrol with shadow whips, their silhouettes perched on watchtowers, eyes glowing faintly. Lockdown says, snarling, "Meat factory full of ghosts. The rot's already in the wiring." Brent jams a device into a control panel. Sparks spray as the oppressive hum dies. Conveyor belts grind to a halt. Shadow glyphs along the walls flicker and sputter out. Brent says, smirking, "Tech's offline. Let's make it permanent." Brent stands up from the control panel, watching as the lights across the slaughter floor flicker and dim. He taps a button on his wrist pad. Dozens of tiny light drone orbs rising from his pack and zip off into the rafters, their faint pulse barely visible. Brent says, explaining, low, "Alarms and comms are jammed. Drone grids emitting an anti-shadow pulse across 10 miles. Fries their tech, scrambles their pathing." Lockdown glances at Brent's scanner and sees the HUD flickering with DNA readings, showing silhouettes of people across a Slaughter City map flickering out. In the distance, harvest agents convulse and crumble as the invisible wave hits, their weapons sputtering into sludge. Their bodies collapse into drifting black dust. Brent says grim under his breath. Standard agents were still people, tethered by shadow, but not fully gone. Strip the shadows out of their DNA, and their systems can't survive it. What's left gets pulled deeper into the rot spectrum, until it dissolves. Lockdown says, peering at Brent's screen, raising an eyebrow, "You just ghosted 1,000 agents without lifting a finger." Brent doesn't reply, just gives a faint, wry smile and moves on. They press forward down a long corridor, sticking to the shadows as harvest agents crisscross their patrols. Brent motions them to halt at a junction. As the heroes crouch behind a support beam, the sound of heavy boots and faint whispers echo closer. A squad of harvest agents passes, their armor darker and seemingly more powerful than the ones before. The air around them feels heavier, charged. Lockdown says, whispering, side-eyeing Brent, "Yo, thought your little disco light fried all of them." Why are these clowns still marching? Brent keeps his eyes on the agents, jaw tight. Brent says quiet but seriously, those aren't standard. They're elite vessels. The Shadow formed a shell, fused too deep into their core. My tech can't peel it off without something left to collapse. Pulse scrambles circuits, not whatever's walking inside those suits. Z-Man glances at Brent, then back at the passing agents, his grip tightening on his guitar. And he says, so more monster than man. Brent gives a subtle nod, then signals to move when the path clears. Z-Man lingers a moment longer, watching the elites disappear into the dark. His jaw clenches, eyes narrowing. Zack thinks to himself, Brent says they're gone. Nothing's left but shells, but I don't know. I can feel something in there, like a pulse, a flicker, a person still screaming to get out. He grips his guitar tighter, the vines at his feet twitching restlessly, almost alive on their own. Zack continues to think, if I'm wrong, then I'm just chasing ghosts. If I'm right, then maybe the only way to reach them is through the same shadows eating them alive. He exhales hard, shoving the thought down as Brent waves him onward, but the doubt clings to him, gnawing at the edge of his mind. Brent says low and urgent, the processing room's ahead. There's a core of energy in there. Take it out, we free the animals. But first, we clear the rest of the agents and whatever shadows they've got lurking here. He glances at his scanner again, frowning as the readings spike even higher. Brent mutters uneasily, strange. I've never seen Shadow Tech give off signatures this strong. It almost feels alive. Lockdown exchanges a look with Z-Man but keeps moving. Brent shakes his head, clearly disturbed but determined. In the Shadow Realm, Harvest HQ, Banquet Hall. A cavernous hall stretches endlessly, carved from bone and obsidian. Phantom chandeliers drip black wax at the center. A banquet table piled high with phantom meats and chained, half-formed creatures twitching in endless agony. The air is thick with rotten smoke. CEO at the head of the table. The CEO sits immaculately, sharp, suit crisp, posture calm. He delicately carves a sliver of shadow meat, sets it down untouched, and leans back in absolute control. Todd at the side, half changed into T-Bone Todd, tears into a carcass like a rabid animal. Cleaver clenched, sweat and grease dripping down his chin. His body flickers between man and beast, veins bulging one moment, then fading back. An armored Harvest agent bows low near the table. The Harvest agent says cautiously, CEO, sir, today's outbreak, should we consider him unstable? CEO activating his lens. The CEO taps his tech lens. Crimson glyphs flicker. Footage plays across a translucent screen. Todd rampaging through a dining hall earlier today after Zack left. His meat club smashing walls. Shadows pulsing from him as students scream. Reset beacons flare, washing the room in crimson light. Students freeze, their memories blurred as the hall re-knits itself normal. The CEO says flat, assured. He lost control again, yes, but only briefly. The beacons reset the scene before it spread. A few witnesses, now blank slates. He waves a hand dismissively. The CEO says calm, calculating. He is close. I almost have the man broken. Soon the beast will no longer waste itself on hunger. It will obey. Todd growls, slamming his meat club on the table. The phantom feast quivers. Todd leans forward, snarling, grease flying, and T-Bone Todd says, "You've got it all, every beast, every body, and you just sit on it?" The CEO glances over coldly and says, his voice like a knife, "Because power is not appetite, Todd. Power is command. The one who decides who eats and who starves." Todd is seething, veins bulging. He growls, grip splitting his knuckles, eyes wild with envy. He didn't remember these outbursts as Todd. The man was blind. Only the beast remembered. CEO's lens flashes red. The CEO checks his lens again. A new glyph flares. His calm falters for a bit. The CEO says, "Slaughter City." The balance shifts. Todd perking up, hungry. Todd says, snarling, "Then let me go. I'll gorge on them before they touch the core." CEO says, leaning forward, voice sharp, "No, not yet. You're nearly forged, but not finished. Until the man is gone, you are not strength. You are a liability." Todd is shifting in place uneasily. Todd's jaw twitches, eyes wide with rage and hunger. He doesn't even realize he's at the table, but the beast does, and the beast remembers. And far below, the battle had already begun. Back at Slaughter City, in the processing room. Dim red lights flicker through the industrial shadows. Gluttony lounges grotesquely on a mountain of bones and carcasses, his pig-like body bloated and crawling with worms. Chains of intestines hang from meat hooks above. He stuffs live animals into his mouth, cows, pigs, chickens, screaming, eyes wide with terror. Gluttony says, bellowing, "You can't stop hunger. It builds empires." Brent freezes in the doorway, scanner still in his hand. The light flickers wildly, then sputters and dies. His face goes pale as he sees Gluttony devouring a live cow. Brent says, horrified, whispering, "That's no tech. That's the core. That's something else entirely." Lockdown crouches behind broken machinery, watching in stunned horror. His fingers twitch near the mic Brent gave him. Lockdown says, muttering while flipping his mic in his hands, "That ain't hunger. That's a whole demon buffet." Zach holds up his dimly glowing guitar and steps forward. The animals caged behind Gluttony groan, not just in pain, but in soul-deep anguish, as if calling to him with their final strength. Zach begins to sing, not beautifully, not broken, raw. It's not just a song, it's a wound.
Peek into the darkness, cries of the helpless, eyes just like ours, hearts torn apart. There's
Gluttony stumbles mid-bite, his grotesque laughter falters. Flies drop from his back like burnt embers. Gluttony says, choking, "No, no, you can't be here." Suddenly, Gluttony slams his hands onto the floor. Dark pulse ripples out in every direction. Corruption. Gluttony says, roaring, "Feed, you wretched things! Tear them apart!" Every animal in the slaughterhouse jolts violently. Their eyes glow red, flesh twists, mouths snap with unnatural hunger. They break free, charging as a horde, not toward Gluttony, but toward Z-Man, Lockdown, Tyler, and Brent. Lockdown says, wide-eyed, "Oh no, 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 no. He just turned victims into villains." The heroes are overrun. Dozens of corrupted animals swarm. Z-Man blocks with his guitar. Vine's trying to hold them back, but failing. Lockdown gets pinned. Brent is nearly trampled. Lockdown fights his way upright, slams his mic into the ground. A deep bass line pulses outward. Redemption beat. The animals in the wavefront pause, eyes blinking. Lockdown says, "Come back, babies! Remember who you are!" Tyler slams down glowing bark-covered arms, creating a protective dome of crystal branches around a group of PAS agents and animals, keeping the animals from being corrupted by the shadow. Tyler says, gritting his teeth, "Not this time. We won't lose anyone else." Brent, covered in blood and hay, activates a tech pad on his wrist. Glowing portals open behind the freed animals. He whistles sharply. "Now! Teleporting to Sanctuary!" A system forms. Lockdown pulses the beat, freeing their minds. Brent ports them to safety, one by one. The corrupted turn, blink and vanish in flashes of green and gold light. Z-Man is now surrounded completely by corrupted animals. He stops defending and starts singing directly to them, channeling every ounce of compassion in his song.
peek into the curtain, the pain is certain, cry for all the lives that die.
A tidal wave of animals rushes him, but mid-charge, one by one, they glow green, stop, and turn toward Gluttony instead. Gluttony screams in rage as the newly freed animals leap onto him, clawing and biting him not in hatred, but in righteous rebellion. Gluttony says, "No! I am Appetite! You owe me!" With Gluttony weakened and overwhelmed, Z-Man's vines reappear, now glowing blinding white. They lash forward, wrapping around Gluttony's limbs. Z-Man continues.
Into the darkness, cries of the helpless.
Gluttony roars as the vines tighten, cracking his skin, flies and worms bursting from every rupture. He begins to collapse inward, his grotesque form imploding. Instead of dying, he liquefies into a foul black sludge, oozing down through the cracks of the slaughterhouse floor. Finally, the room falls silent. The remaining animals watch. Lockdown drops to one knee. Brent exhales. Z-Man stands with slightly shaking legs. The corridor is cold and silent except for the sound of distant, broken animal cries. Rows of cages stretch endlessly into darkness. Lockdown says tensely, "Tell me this is over." Brent says, glancing down the corridor, voice steady, "This was only step 1. Step 2's a mile and a half that way." He points into the darkness of a deep, vast corridor. They start walking. The corridor stretches on, lined with cages, carcasses, and terrified animals. Cold air brushes past them. Brent says low, almost to himself, "Something about your music is different. I can't tell what's shifting exactly." Zach says, voice tight, quiet, almost to himself, "This unfathomable atrocity for these animals. It's shifting something in me." Elsewhere, scattered across the slaughter city, multiple squads of PAS agents are at work. They work in coordinated silence, planting glowing teleport anchors in corridor after corridor. The hum of activation spread through the underground like a slow pulse. Inside PAS HQ, the operations room glows in the dark as a massive digital map of Slaughter City updates in real time. Red dots blink green one by one, spreading outward through the facility like seeds being planted. Nikki says, leaning forward, curious, "What are the green lights?" Lynn says, focused on her counsel, "Each one's a teleport anchor, set and primed. Once the whole network's lit up, every animal goes out at once." Nikki nods slowly, still clearly a recruit, absorbing everything. Kyle says, arms crossed, steady, 25% in, just over a dozen squads out there. They're moving fast." Another cluster of red dots flips to green on the map. Back at Slaughter City, Tyler and a PAS squad trails several corridors behind Zach's team, planting anchors at regular intervals. 2 pigs slowly vanish through a portable teleporting pad, light rippling sluggishly around their bodies. Tyler says, frustrated, muttering, "This pad's taking too long." The PAS squad leader says, steady and focused, "Stay sharp, Tyler. Remember, the main objective is the anchors. Once they are all placed and primed," he gestures down the hall to the other squads working, "they all go free at once." Tyler takes a breath, nodding, and keeps moving with the team. Meanwhile, back where Zach, Brent, and Lockdown were at, Zach slows. He sees a small pig lying crumbled against the wall, too weak to move toward any teleporting pad. Its breathing is shallow and shaky. Brent and Lockdown stop behind him, silent. Zach kneels beside the animal. His hand trembles slightly as a faint emerald gold light begins to radiate from his palms, spilling softly across the floor. Zach whispers quietly under his breath. The light expands, washing over the pig's frail body like a warm sunrise. The pig blinks slowly, its eyes reflecting the faint vision of a bright sky as the light wraps around it. Its outline begins to dissolve gently, fading out piece by piece. As the pig is teleported, it looks Z-Man in the eyes and says, "I never thought I'd see the sky." A single tear rolls down its cheek as its body completely fades into the light, leaving only the glow behind for a moment, then nothing. The light lingers briefly, then fades back into the dark corridor. Zach exhales sharply, strain written on his face. Brent says, firm and steady, "Careful, don't burn out. Tyler's got the anchors down. We need you at your full strength when it hits." Lockdown says quietly, "Don't carry it all at once, man." Zach lowers his gaze toward the endless row of cages. The cries echo softly. Cold air brushes past them. The team moves deeper into the dark corridors. Zach turns down a side corridor led by distant whimpers. His footsteps echo in blood-slick silence. He passes a sealed chamber inside. Shadowy figures hang upside down. He hears gasps and low moans. A row of piglets in cages watches him. One is already dead, his eyes mouth open in a silent scream. On the wall, bloody claw marks, hoof prints, and smears, signs of animals desperately trying to escape, their struggle frozen in dried crimson. One long streak looks like it dragged down the entire corridor. He stops. He grips the guitar tighter. A violent shiver runs through him, his pupils dilate, and for a second, his eyes flash between glowing green and black. A faint distortion vibrates around him, static, almost like whispering voices. Then Z-Man thinks to himself, What was that? Zack moves through a dark hallway, thick with fear and old blood. He hears a strange sound echoing off the concrete. Zack turns the corridor and sees a figure crouched, facing the wall, their back to him, all black. Shadows cling to them. A faint green glow leaks from their silhouette. Zack says softly, Hey, are you okay? The figure stops screaming and shifting. Then they slowly turn around. It's a man, with Zack's exact face, but twisted. Glowing eyes, one green, one black. Cracked grin, veins pulsing with rot. His voice is a manic whisper, mixed with opera vibrato. The man says, Oh yeah, I'm just peachy. This is what I love to do for fun. No, I'm not okay. There are billions of animals dying for mere taste pleasure. For the mouth feels, for bacon on a burger they don't even finish. For rituals, for habits, for tradition. For nothing but boredom and habit. Skin peeled like oranges. Babies stolen from mothers. Zack, barely audible, shaken, says, You again. I saw you. In the Shadow Realm. Then the man, still ranting, starts to falter. With extra bovine secretion. The man freezes, sudden silence. His grin droops. His head slowly tilts towards Zack. Eyes narrow. He locks eyes with Zack, unblinking, one eye pitch black, one eye green. The man says, Oh, we never met. Zack flinches. Suddenly he's staring into an empty corner. No figure, no sound, just darkness. Zack stumbles back into the light. The vision is gone. His eyes return to normal. But his breathing is shallow. The hallway looks darker now. He glances back one last time and whispers to himself, Keep it together, man. Z-Man rounds the corner and rejoins the team. Lockdown nods to him. Brent taps a flickering digital map on his wrist. Tyler approaches, weapon slung, flanked by 2 PAS agents. Brent says, We've got a layout of the facility, distribution center central, and crawling with harvest resistance, but it's where Wrath's and Apathy signals are the strongest. Z-Man says, composing himself, Then that's where we go. Tyler says, I'll sweep through the rest, room by room. With the help of your agents, we can place teleportation pads. We can get the animals out. Brent says, Good. Your team runs extraction. We push forward. Lockdown says, fiercely holding his mic, Let's split the storm. Shake every wall on our way through. They bump fists or nod in solidarity. Tyler splits off with the PAS agents down a side corridor. Brent leads the rest toward the looming doors of the distribution center. As Brent, Z-Man, and Lockdown advance down a blood-slick corridor, faint metallic clinks echo from up ahead. The shadows deepen. Then, a squad of elite harvest agents rounds the corner, their armor bristling with runes and rot, weapons already hissing and snapping to life. One carries a living cleaver that elongates mid-swing, another has a void neck cannon sparking with dark webs, and 2 more grip scatter blades that twitch with worm-like tendrils. Brent freezes them with a sharp gesture. The 3 heroes flatten against the wall as the agents advance. Brent says, Those nets literally send you into Oblivion of the Shadow Realm. Do not engage. Lockdown says, low and tense, elite squad, and more of them this time. The agents spot them. Too late for stealth now. They charge. Z-Man's vines whip out, catching 2 by the chest and slamming them into opposite walls hard enough to crack concrete. Lockdown stomps forward, his mic glowing as he releases a bass wave that buckles the floor and knocks another 2 sprawling, but they scramble back up. One agent fires the void net. Brent ducks under it and fires his gauntlet up at the ceiling. The steel beam collapses across the corridor, making a chain event. The ceiling collapses, blocking the path behind the heroes and smushing the Harvest elite agents. Brent says grimly, We're not stopping, push through! The 3 heroes surge together, straight toward the Harvest agents, Z-Man's vines lashing, Lockdown's beats cracking armor, Brent firing precise light shots at joints and visors. The elites stagger and fall one by one, their weapons hissing and dissolving into black sludge as they're defeated. The final agent collapses with a hollow thud. Brent scans the hallway ahead, then gives a single nod. Brent says, Clear. Keep moving. They press forward toward the doors of the distribution center, where silence and fire await. The heroes enter the distribution center, a sprawling metallic zone divided in half. One side is cold and gray, unnervingly quiet. The other side is aflame with fury and wreckage. From the silence slouches Apathy, a gray-blue demon with sagging skin, weeping eyes and a face that droops like melted wax. Dead animals follow him like ghosts. Apathy says, "Why try? Why fight? They're already gone." On the flaming side of the room, Wrath descends, a barbed, armored titan with molten skin, chained limbs cracking with every movement. His scream rattles the walls. Wrath says, "The world burned me first!" Apathy raises a hand. A wave of gray fog washes over their team. Zack drops to his knees, his guitar flickering. Lockdown clutches his head, heartbeat slowing. Apathy says, "No one cares. Not really." Zack sees ghostly versions of himself eating meat, ignoring suffering, walking past dying animals. He tries to scream, but only silence emerges. Apathy points at Lockdown. His own shadow appears beside him. Shadow Lockdown. Shadow Lockdown says, "You ain't saving nobody. You're just noise." Brent tries to activate a teleportation pad, but Wrath lunges forward with the whip of molten chain, slashing the device in half. Wrath says, "We'll all die screaming together." Wrath erupts, destroying half the room. Machinery melts. Animals shriek. The team scrambles. Lockdown says, move them now!" Zack and Brent grab cages and teleportation pads. Lockdown drops a baseline that briefly stuns Wrath, letting animals get whisked away in glowing pulses. Wrath's molten chain lashes towards Z-Man. Brent dives in, activating a quick deploy shield from his wrist tech. It absorbs the blow but shatters. Brent crashes into a wall, smoke rising from his gauntlet. Z-Man says, shouting, "Brent!" Brent says, groaning while slowly getting up, "Just a prototype. Keep going." Wrath turns on Brent. His eyes blaze, chains lash out and coil around Brent's limbs like cursed veins seeping into his skin. Brent twitches. His pupils flicker red for a moment. Wrath says, "You love light. Then die in it." Brent's light tech surges violently, firing beams at Zack and Lockdown. His body jerks with each blast. His voice is strained, panicked. Brent says, I don't know what's happening. Move!" Zack and Lockdown barely dodge the blast from Brent's tech. Then Zack starts to play a raw, clashing chord that cuts through Apathy's fog. Apathy screeches, shielding his face. Zack says, singing fierce and broken, Lockdown blasts a beat with his mic that pulses with primal rhythm, shattering Wrath's focus. Lockdown says, "Wake up, Brent!" Brent sees a trembling calf beneath falling debris. He forces himself free, shielding it. Brent says, cradling the calf briefly, "It's okay. Science didn't fail you. I did." He gently sets the calf down. Gauntlet hums to life. Then he says, "But I learned fast." A light wave blasts demons back. Brent slams his gauntlet into the ground, sending out a shockwave of light that stuns both demons. Zack sings again, the vines of truth re-emerging. They burst from the floor, wrapping Wrath in glowing tendrils. Zack sings, Lockdown and Brent stand side by side, launching synchronized rhythm and light pulses. Apathy crumbles, trying to flee. Apathy says, "No, not again." Animals previously corrupted now rush forward, eyes clear. They leap at Wrath and Apathy, holding them in place. With the final chord, Zack's vines explode with radiant power, ensnaring both demons. Apathy and Wrath scream in unison, their bodies unraveling into black sludge that oozes through cracks in the floor. Vanquished, but not destroyed. Zack collapsed to his knees, breathing hard. He says, "We're done now, I think." Deep inside the Shadow Realm, at a harvest holding chamber, the CEO stands before a jagged obsidian map glowing with red glyphs. Carl lingers near the edge of the chamber, restless, cleavers twitching in his hands. Carl says, eager, leaning forward, "Send me. Let me carve through them. I can end Z-Man myself. CEO says, cold, not even turning to see him. No, you're not ready. You lost control with Cowboy Titanium. Barely held him. Almost cost us the mission. That kind of recklessness gets you killed. Carl bristles, fists tighten, his jaw clenches, but he forces a smile. Carl says, gritting his teeth, I helped you bag him. Don't I get a promotion? CEO says flatly, with a smirk of disdain. Promotion? You don't get promotions. You do what I say. That's all. The CEO turns away, silence. Then a low, guttural growl rumbles through the chamber, shaking the walls. The CEO stiffens, his smugness flickering. Carl straightens, eyes gleaming. Carl says, with a dark smile, voice low, No, you do what he says. The faint silhouette of the Rotfather looms behind Carl, enormous, skeletal wings folding in the black fog. The CEO says nothing, jaw tight. Carl bows his head slightly, almost reverent, but his grin stays wild. The CEO turns to Carl, commanding, Carl, slaughter 10,000 shadow beasts by dawn. Then we'll see if you're worthy of the next mission. Then Carl storms into the wastes. Shadow creatures crawl and swarm around him, malformed, half human, half beast. His cleavers flash into being. He roars and dives in, tearing through them with savage precision. Every strike dissolves a creature into sludge. He doesn't fight to train. He fights to vent, to dominate, to prove he is more than the CEO's pawn. He was not sharpening skill, he was sharpening hate. Carl stands amidst heaps of dissolving remains, chest heaving, eyes burning. A cruel grin cuts across his face. Carl says to himself, panting, ZmanTheVegan, twig boy. One day, I'll be more than your opposite. I'll be your end. Suddenly, a massive, otherworldly roar rips through the chamber walls, echoing for miles. The ground quakes. All around him, the shadow creatures Carl hasn't cut down yet stop, shudder, then turn and begin stampeding in a single direction. Carl looks up. In the far distance, the sky fractures. A colossal portal swells into existence, its edges writhing with black fire and rot. Shadows, beasts, and demons surge toward it in a tidal wave, leaving Carl behind in their wake. A horde of lesser creatures barrels past him. In fury, Carl spins, cleaving through them. 1, 2, 10 at a time. Then a hulking brute slams into him. Carl meets it head on, cleavers sinking deep, ripping it apart in a spray of sludge. He stands over its ruin, chest heaving, as the rest of the swarm thunders away toward the portal. Carl says, snarling, shouting after the horde, You run to him now, but one day, he'll come to me! His cleavers blaze with black fire as veins of shadow pulse up his arms. Behind him, the portal widens, its roar harmonizing with Carl's fury. Carl stands alone in the wastes, abandoned by the swarm, burning with rage. Outside the slaughterhouse city facility, near a clearing, the trio takes a breath. Blood smoke rises behind them. They sit together on a broken pipe. Zach says, I used to think I had to do all of this alone. Lockdown says, Nah, you spark the flame. We carry the fire. Brent nods slowly, looking out over the burning factory, the light from the flames reflecting in his eyes. Brent says, measured, You're writing a new verse for all of us. I can't say I trust it yet, but I can't ignore it either. Zach replies with a half smile, thanks? Lockdown says, grinning, Was that supposed to be a compliment, or is Brent just bad at people? Smoke curls above the shattered gates as the firelight flickers on their faces. Zach exhales, a small, uncertain smile tugging at his mouth. Zach says, Either way, let's finish this. Free the animals, then go home. From behind a row of collapsed crates, Tyler re-emerges, armor scratched, trailing a squad of PAS agents. Tyler says, We cleared the west wing of Harvest. Most of the animals are safe. All of the teleportation pads and anchors are in place and ready. He locks eyes with Z-Man and nods. Let's end this. Brent glances at his scanner as the team starts to move. At first, it hums faintly. Then the screen flares with jagged black-red glyphs, scrolling faster and faster. Brent mutters uneasily. That can't be right. The scanner emits a sharp screeching sound. The numbers climb off the charts. Brent taps it frantically, but the screen distorts, cracking down the middle. He freezes, staring at the shattered display as faint vibrations ripple through the ground. The screen not only cracks, but starts to break apart and spark as chunks of it fly off. Brent says, muttering uneasily, "That level of shadow energy? Enough to break my scanner?" The scanner emits a sharp screech, sparks and dies completely. Black smoke curling from its seams. Brent stares at the broken device as the shadows around them deepen, swirling into a massive void. The ground shakes violently. Shadows writhe along the factory walls, and the air thickens with decay. From the abyss beyond the factory walls, a guttural roar shatters the silence as a rotting portal tears open in the sky above the slaughterhouse. Thunder crashes black. The void expands outward, swallowing light. The earth cracks beneath their feet. From that portal emerges the Rotfather, twisted, bloated with shadow energy. Towering over the heroes, he stands atop a wave of writhing shadow demons, diseased beasts, and charging harvest agents. So many, packed so tightly, they form a living tide of rotten flesh and roots, a living tsunami of shadow and rot, carrying him forward as he strides across their backs. Demons, Gluttony's reinforcements, surge forward, claws glinting, fiery eyes blazing. Shadow beasts crawl along the walls and ceiling, surrounding the trio. Lockdown jumps to his feet, his mic glowing purple. Lockdown says defiantly, "They're not done yet. This fight's just beginning." Zack grips his guitar tighter, his eyes fierce as vines curl around his hands. Zack says, "Then we finish it. Together." Brent just stands there for a long beat, stunned, the broken scanner still in his hand. He swallows hard. Brent says, with a hoarse voice, barely audible, "We're not ready for this." The Rotfather unleashes a haunting scream, laugh, a psychotic, bone-rattling sound that echoes through the void as he rides the wave of rotten flesh. The seething mass of corpses and diseased roots surges forward, carrying him atop their backs as he strides steadily toward the heroes, each step sinking into the writhing horde beneath him. Tyler summons roots from the ground, wrapping around the horde's legs to slow them. Tyler says, shouting, "This land remembers what it was before the rot." Very rapidly, Tyler's powers are overwhelmed by the horde of demons, and once Rotfather gets to Tyler's wall of bark and crystals, he breaks it as if it was a thin sheet of wet paper. The mass of demons slams to the ground, causing buildings to shatter around them. The heroes are knocked back from the force. The Rotfather holds up a giant bird cage made of blackened bone and shadow bars. Inside is Cowboy Titanium, chained and bruised, his hat lying beside him. Rotfather says, booming,
"Looking for this?"
Z-Man, Tyler, and Lockdown scramble to their feet, wide-eyed in horror. Z-Man says, "No, Cowboy!" The horde of demons rears back, their ranks glowing from within, red-black fire pulsing through the cracks of their tangled bodies, as though the earth itself had ignited beneath them. The swarm screams as one and crashes forward like a living avalanche of shadow. The Rotfather says,
"Watch as I erase your hope from existence."
Just as the Rotfather lunges, just feet from the heroes, a blinding white light bursts from above, cutting through the shadows. Mother Nature descends, radiant and ethereal, surrounded by elemental force. With her comes every force of nature and every animal known and unknown to man. Tidal waves, lightning, lava, rock, flocks of birds, elephants, a huge mass of nature and life pushes back against the darkness. Mother Nature says, firm, radiant, sorrowful, "You've fallen, old one, but not beyond my reach." An epic clash as Mother Nature and the heroes unite. Their light and energy push back the waves of shadows, demons, and the Rotfather toward the portal, like squeezing a swimming pool of black sludge back into a penny-sized hole. Z-Man strums a power chord, shockwaves of light slicing the air. Lockdown grips his mic, using a bass drop, a spiral of violet sound roaring out. Tyler launches crystal blasts, and Brent fires his new light tech whisper, echoing Z-Man's resonance. The wave of demons roars in defiance. The Rotfather screams in rage, his power crumbling under the harmony of compassion and purpose. With the final combined blast, the waves of demons and the Rotfather are forced back through the collapsing portal. Smoke and energy swirl violently. Just as the rift begins to slam shut, a glint of silver Cowboy Titanium's birdcage is caught at the edge. Z-Man lunges, grabbing the cage. Light surges through his arms as he pulls with all of his strength. Cowboy is barely conscious. Looking up, Z-Man sees his facial expression of half pain, half grief. Zack says, straining, "I've got you, Cowboy. Just hold on." Z-Man sings.
I would ease your
Suddenly, black vines, rot-covered, barbed, pulsing, erupt from the portal like whips. They lash around Z-Man's arms, legs, and waist. The one coils around his neck. The ground beneath him cracks as he's yanked forward, cage and all, into the collapsing rift. Mother Nature reacts instantly. Her eyes widen. She leaps forward, slamming both hands into the swirling edges of the portal. Vines spiral from her fingers, embedding into the edges to stabilize the gateway. Her arms shake with effort. She holds the portal open by sheer force, but she cannot enter. Mother Nature says, gritting her teeth, "Zach, hold on!" Inside the Shadow Realm, a grotesque, writhing void, Z-Man is held aloft by the rotten core. Suspended high in the air, his body dangles in a prison of rot vines. Shadow demons claw at him from below, biting, shrieking, but the core keeps them at bay. One vine wraps across Z-Man's mouth, silencing him. Z-Man tries to sing. Light trembles in his chest, but the vine tightens. His voice is strangled. His light begins to fade. The rotten core says deep, resonant, like an army spoke as one.
Even the fiercest light wilts beneath a wall of rot.
Z-Man's eye twitches, his fingers curl, then his teeth sink into the vine gag, tearing it apart. A feral scream erupts from him. It's not just sound, it's emotion, weaponized. Shadow beasts flinch. The rotten core staggers, slightly, claws recoiling. Z-Man's aura distorts. For one split second, he flickers into something half dark, half light, wild-eyed, one eye black, one eye glows green, with a cracked grin, a green Z glowing across his chest, and his all-green suit turns all black. Zach screams, but this time, it's not just light that erupts from him. Zach begins to sing.
Into the curtain, the pain is certain. Cry for all the lives that died.
A shadow wave explodes outward, dark and primal, crashing into all surrounding demons, and even driving the rotten core backward. The core staggers visibly, its grotesque body shuddering as the blast rattles its very essence. Z-Man begins to fall from the rotten core's grip, drifting back and forth from consciousness. Back at the portal, Mother Nature braces herself. Vines wrap tight around the edges of the rift as it thrashes and snaps, like a living wound. Every ounce of her strength is focused on keeping it open, her body trembling with the effort. Suddenly, a scream echoes out of the rift. Not just any scream, but something fractured, raw, and inhuman, a sound that chills everyone to the bone. The noise makes the shadows ripple outward from the rift's edges like black lightning. Lockdown and Brent exchange a quick, uneasy glance. Even Mother Nature falters for half a beat, her grip on her portal tightening as her eyes scan the void. Lockdown says quiet, uneasy, What the hell was that?" Mother Nature squints into the swirling storm, her jaw set. The air inside the rift is thick with dust and shadow, a suffocating void where even her gaze struggles to pierce. For long moments, she sees nothing but black. Until, just for a breath, a faint emerald glimmer cuts through the dark. Zach's form, no longer shrouded in black but clad once more in green, flickers into view. The light of his suit, faint but unmistakable, like a fragile beacon in the chaos. Mother Nature says, breathless, urgent, "There you are." With her free hand, she lashes a vine through the rift. It whips into the Shadow Realm, weaving through the storm and coiling around Zach just as he begins to fall. With a mighty pull, she yanks him out of the darkness, back into the light, the scream fading into silence. As Zach is being pulled out of the Shadow Realm, the rotten core says this, echoing, low and dark.
You carry more light. You carry power, shadow. You carry a deep hunger.
Z-Man is yanked through the portal just as it starts to collapse. Mother Nature grits her teeth and lets go. The portal slams shut. Smoke. Silence. The heroes stand battered. Cowboy Titanium still lost. Z-Man kneels, catching his breath, eyes wide, haunted. Z-Man says softly, "We're coming for you, Cowboy. Hold on." Brent says quiet, unsettled, "What was that scream?" Z-Man looks up with the unsettled but confused face of uncertainty. Lockdown and Brent exchange a glance, but say nothing as Mother Nature watches with concern. Tyler limps into frame, leaning against Lockdown, visibly shaken, but alive. Lockdown says quietly to Tyler, "You held your own, man." Tyler nods gently. As smoke settles and the shadows retreat, a breeze flows through the scorched clearing. Mother Nature merges with the breeze and the sky, and Mother Nature appears now in a shimmer of light, faint, almost part of the air itself. The team looks up. Mother Nature says softly to all, "He hasn't opened a portal with this much precision and power in ages, but even in ruin, you are the roots of renewal. Stay strong." She dissolves into golden dust. A single glowing leaf flutters down and lands between them. Back in the Shadow Realm, the portal is slammed shut. Only faint cracks of rotted energy remain, floating like dying embers in the air. The rotten core stands in eerie stillness, staring at the space where Z-Man vanished. The portal fades, but the echo remains. Rotfather says softly, then rising,
"Did you hear that? Did you feel it? He screamed back. It's darkness, real darkness."
General Apathy stands near the edge of the throne chamber, shrouded in moldy mist. His posture droops as always, his expression unreadable. Apathy says low, monotone, "That scream wasn't born of you. It wasn't born of anything. We command." The Rotfather's grin twists into rage. He lifts one massive, rotted arm and slams it into a wall of fused bone and rock beside Apathy. Cracks split outward. Rot drips. The Rotfather says, bellowing,
"He will be mine."
Apathy brushes fragments of bone from his shoulder with a lazy motion. He doesn't flinch. His eyes drift to the place where the portal vanished. Apathy says, cold and dry, "Or he will be the end of everything. Even us." Other generals line the throne chamber. Wrath twitches, his eye twitching unnaturally. Gluttony stares hungrily, tongue twitching. Resentment looks away, jaw clenched. Greed clutches his own shadow gold tightly, whispering something only he can hear. Behind them, a darker corridor of twisted vines and bone towers. Mortem stands motionless. The dim glow of rotting crystals outlines his tall skeletal frame. In one hand he grips the rot scythe, its crooked blade pulsing softly with ancient decay. He watches in silence, unmoving, unreadable. He does not speak, but he heard it too. Back at Slaughterhouse City, smoke coils from shattered smokestacks around the ruined factory complex, as radiant beams of light shoot into the sky like pillars breaking through the gloom. From cracks in the facility walls and gates, waves of liberated animals flood outward. Cows, pigs, goats, chickens, even foxes and raccoons, all fleeing with raw instinct. Some stumble through rubble, others pause, blinking at the sky, uncertain of freedom. Overhead, sleek silver drones swirl in precision, AI synchronized patterns. They flash scanning lights across rooftops, cages, tunnels, and broken catwalks, mapping the wreckage with flickering halos of data. In the foreground, Lockdown watches in stunned silence as an entire section of a giant building vanishes in a cascade of shimmering rings. Brent stands beside him, hands working a floating interface above his wristband. Tyler says, "How are you tracking this many animals this quickly?" Brent says, focused, "AI drones scan 1 mile every 10 seconds. Infrared, heat, and fear signatures. We've got teleport relays set to pulse on a rhythm. Auto-collaborates based on size, species, stress levels, even injuries." Lockdown says, blinking, "Dang." But while the mission moved forward, something inside unraveled. Zach kneels amid the rubble. The factory burns, but his guitar is dim. He is shaking. Victory has a cost. As animals flee, Lockdown kneels beside Zach, placing a hand on his shoulder. Lockdown says, "He gave himself for the bigger beat. We gotta make it count." Brent then walks up to Zach and Lockdown and hands them both teleportation anchors to place. He says, "We can use all the help we can get." Moments later, in the interior of a dim, blood-streaked corridor, Zach kneels beside a cramped chamber overflowing with trembling animals. He gently places a teleportation relay pad beneath the floor grating. Zach says softly, "It's okay. I'm here to help you. Here to help you get out." As Zach reaches toward a young lamb, it recoils in fear. Around it, the other animals shift uneasily, ears back, eyes wide. A low, anxious whimper spreads. The earth thickens with unease. Zach says, quietly confused, What's wrong?" A crow lands on a broken beam above. It tilts its head, staring at Zach, then lets out a sharp caw and takes off. The flock follows in a chaotic burst of wings and screeches. The teleportation pad sputters, sparks, and dies. Zach curses under his breath. Damn it. Brent enters from behind, crouches, and quickly begins rewiring the pad. Brent says, "You burnt out every pad you touch, man. Go cool off. I got this." Zach says, still shaken, "Okay, I'll be right back." Zach walks down a corridor alone, flickering overhead lights. Blood trails on the floor. His footsteps echo. He stops at a puddle of blood near an overturned slaughter bin. He looks down. In the puddle, his reflection stares back, but half of his face is cracked, blackened, hollow-eyed, grinning. Zach says, quiet, barely audible, "No. Something else has awakened." Behind a pillar, Tyler silently watches. His eyes snap open. The bark on his arm pulses faint, black, then fades. Tyler thinks, something's wrong with him. Far away, in the ancient elder grove, miles away from Slaughter City, moonlight filters through twisted branches. Nearer the elder tree, Zman's tree of life, once pure and vibrant, now shudders in its roots. Its glowing leaves dim, and a deep black vein crawls up its trunk like a disease. It splits, not broken, but twisted, half of it now tinting black and half glowing green, as if some other essence is taking root in Zach's tree of life. The animals in the grove look on in silent fear. A raven flies off from a branch. Even the earth could feel it. Even the sacred tree could feel the change. Beneath the wreckage of the slaughterhouse city, in a chamber of shadow and ruin, a figure rises from pooled blood and broken instruments. One eye shining green, one eye dark black. A grin carved by pain. Around it, metal bends unnaturally. A cracked, distorted version of Zach's guitar hovers beside it, wrapped in barbed wire and chain, thrumming with dark frequency. Behind him, a thin tear opens between realms. A faint silhouette of Zach's sleeping body flickers through like a mirage. A fracture had formed, and something inside it grinned. Beneath the slaughter, a shadow found its way home. I thought the darkness was something outside of me. Something I could fight or outrun. But sometimes, the monster you fear most is the one that wakes up when you finally stop running. Thanks for watching. See you in episode 6.